Hello and welcome to the home of the Ghost Owl, and we're back with one of our Warhammer The Old World faction focus series. We've completed the vampire count and we're now looking at, yes, it's the Empire. Starting off with the Lords, the point of this series is looking at the 8th edition army book, looking at the rules for the units and seeing what they were and how that might influence how they might play in Warhammer The Old World. For example, a heavy infantry durable unit is likely to be the same, albeit with different rules. So when you see a unit, you go, that's probably going to fulfill the same role on the battlefield in the 8th edition as it will do then in the Old World. So without further ado, let's jump in and have a look at our Empire Lords. So first up, we have a general of the Empire, and they came with average weapon skill, ballistic skill, initiative, and high leadership. We can see they've got quite a lot of equipment options. They come with a hand weapon and a light armor, with options for additional hand weapon, great weapon, a lance if mounted, handgun, longbow, pistol, shield, heavy armor, and something rather specific to the Empire, which is full plate armor, giving you a 4+ save even without shield. Now the Lords have options of an Imperial Griffin, an Imperial Pegasus, or a Warhorse, and in terms of special rules, they have only one, which is hold the line, and basically meaning that the unit that the character is in uses 3d6 for break tests, and you take the two lowest numbers, meaning you've got more opportunity to stop the unit running away. Now, overall, General of the Empire then, one of the cheapest Lord options in the 8th edition, coming in at 95 points. However, the stat line and special rules overall mediocre. He's really taken for the leadership aspect. You know, he's got a leadership of 9. However, the Arch Lector can also give a leadership of 9 while giving additional buffs. So if I did take a general on foot, if I did take a general, I normally took him on foot in a unit of great swords with full armor options and a magic weapon to increase that damage output. And you can see here the different selections you had for generals of the Empire, which could also be mixed with captains as well, but you've got options on foot. You've got this particular option here, which is one that I had personally, having actually came with the battle standard bearer in the same box, but you could even make that general on foot as well, and you've also got the option. It's a triple kit, actually. So you get the Imperial Griffin here. You can have it with a generic general. You can have it with Karl Franz. And you can have it with a Battle Wizard Lord. So those are your different options. I believe the Griffin kit is still available, whereas the others, there are some more modern kits for the Cities of Sigmar that I'm sure could be converted. Okay, and next up, we have the Battle Wizard Lord. As you'd expect, all stats are low, and they only come with a hand weapon. Level 3 or level 4 wizard, again as standard, but you do get to choose one of the 8 basic laws. Now, interestingly here, you've got lots of mount options, Imperial Pegasus or Warhorse. Now, if you take the Heavens Law, you can mount them on a Celestial Hurricanum. If you take the Light Law, you can mount them on a Luminarch of Hysh. And if you take the Law of Beasts, you can put them on an Imperial Griffin, and they come with no special rules. Now, overall, as you'd expect, level 4, they're a good caster and they get lots of choice with the laws of magic. However, generally the best laws I found were life, shadow, and death. And obviously you can't then take any of the big mounts. However, anyway, it didn't really matter too much because they didn't really mount the Wizard Lord that often, preferring to keep them inside units where they're better protected, and nearly always took a level 4 you know, they're 200 points. It was very, very good value, say, with the ability to choose the lore that fits how you want your army to play. You've got a number of different options. You could get a box with 4 wizards in, and you could pick which lore you wanted to make them out of. And here you can see the different options. Here you've got a lore of metal over here. You know, you can see this is probably the lore of death. You've got a bright wizard here with a lore of fire, and so on. Lots of options there, and as said on the previous one, here is the Battle Wizard Lord, Lore of Beasts, riding atop a 2-headed griffin. So yeah, a good option, and always worth taking one in the army. Next up is the Arch Lector. He's got average stats overall, weapon skill, ballistical initiative, but he's got high leadership. He's got leadership of 9, the same as the general. Low strength, toughness, attacks and wounds. 1 less attack than the general. But you know, those low stats are pretty typical of the Empire across the board. Equipment wise, he's got a hand weapon and light armor, but he can also take an additional hand weapon, a great weapon. He can take heavy armor and a shield, so slightly less options and no full plate armor than the general. And he can be mounted on a warhorse or a Waralter of Sigmar. However, he's got plenty of special rules. He's got battle prayers, which is a power level 3 augment spell, cast on the warrior priest and the unit he is in, which also includes the detachments attached to a regimental unit, which we'll come on to in a later series. You've got Hammer of Sigmar, which re-roll wounds in combat. That's quite nice. You can give them Shield of Faith for that 5+ ward save against wounds in hand-to-hand combat, so if you're trying to just hold out. And then you've also got Soulfire, which is flaming attacks on all models in base contact with the warrior priest. Take a strength 4 hit with undead, Nehekar and demonic models taking a strength 5 hit, and that comes with no armor saves allowed. Certainly the reroll wounds in combat and the 5+ ward save, incredibly nice. He also comes with divine power, so he can channel power and dispel dice, the same as wizards. Righteous fury, he and his unit gain hatred, but that doesn't apply to other characters that may also be in the unit. So you can see there his special rules there, really giving some great buffs to the unit overall. And to be honest, this lord was regularly seen in the battlefield. He's only slightly worse in combat than the general, essentially losing that 1 attack and 1 weapon skill. And but you know, you can mitigate some of that with magic items. He only costs 5 points more than a general, so he's not expensive. And you know, you're really taking him for his leadership, but then you also get all the unit buffs, and that's really what's important with the Empire, is getting those unit buffs across, and therefore a much better choice. And again, I would always take him on foot rather than on a warhorse or a Waralter of Sigmar, as you know, in the 8th edition, that tended to be overall better protection than sticking him on a big unit, big mount like the Waralter. Okay, next up is the Grand Master. High weapon skill, ballistic skill, initiative, attacks, and leadership. Low strength, toughness, and wounds. So pretty decent stat line, but not that durable from there. Equipment-wise, he's got a hand weapon. He comes with full plate armor, while he is a heavy cavalry knight after all. And he's got options for a great weapon and a shield and lance. And he must be mounted on a barded warhorse. So you can see he's got a barded warhorse, he's got a shield, he's got full plate armor, so he's got an excellent armor save. He is immune to psychology, and he's also a master of battle, which means the unit he's with also gains immune to psychology. Technically, he's the best combat character for the Empire. However, he is restricted to being mounted on the warhorse and leading a unit of heavy cavalry, because that's really what his buff is for, which is unfortunately out of the meta during the 8th edition, as we've covered many times in previous faction focus. To be honest, overall, I never used a Grandmaster outside of a narrative battle, preferring to use the Arch Lectors and Battle Wizards as my lords. You just, maybe you would take a Grandmaster if you were teching very heavily into a unit of Reichsguard or something, or a unit of Empire Knights. But outside of that, that would be very, very uncommon. Certainly in the 8th edition, in my meta, in my local area, which was more tailored around large units of infantry. And there we go. That is the Grandmaster. Now, we're also going on to the mounts, because they are not individual entries in the army list. So just to give you a flavour of what the mounts look like. So Imperial Dragon, high weapon skill, strength, toughness, wounds, and leadership, low initiative, coming with special rules of fly, as you'd expect, fiery breath, which is the breath weapon, large target, scaly skin 3+, which is incredibly nice, and terror. It's only available to Karl Franz in the army list. It costs 300 points. It was never used. There was no miniature released for it, so you would also require a conversion if you wish to put Karl Franz on that mount. Now, the Imperial Griffin, however, high weapon skill, strength, toughness, wounds, and leadership, low initiative, fly, large target, and terror. Sometimes seen on the battlefield, ridden by a general. With the fly, it provides good mobility. However, the mount doesn't make up for the lackluster damage. It's not the biggest amount of damage out there. And 170 points, again, not worth taking. Generally preferring to keep these lords hidden in units, but you can see here you had essentially multiple options, and there's also the third option of having Karl Franz on Deathclaw. So there are multiple options for this mount. The other mount that is available is the Waralter. Stats, good movement, strength, toughness, and wounds. Interestingly, it's a chariot. It's a 5+ armor save, and it's drawn by 2 war horses. Comes with a golden griffin on top. That contains a level 4 bound spell, banishment, and it may be upgraded with the Horn of Sigismund, which also gives terror. Special rules: large target, stubborn, which is nice. The battle prayers for the power of Sigmar affect all units on 6 inches, which is quite nice. It's got a 4+ ward save, and it does give hatred to all units within 6 inches. Now, of all the large mounts, this is the most usable and does allow a single Arch Lector to affect multiple units, but it's 50 points more than taking a second Arch Lector. It's very vulnerable to spells and war machines, meaning it was rarely seen in the tabletop. You'd often see Volkmar riding this, but when you think about, I could have 2 Arch Lectors in 2 different units, which is essentially more flexible. There's less risk, because if you lose one Arch Lector, you've still got one left. To be honest, instead of taking a Waralter, better off taking 2 Arch Lectors. And the final Empire mount that we're going to look at is the Mechanical Steed. Stats, low everything except movement, which is 7, which is still not the best for a mount. Special rules: it comes with impact hits D3 and also unreliable. It's only available to Master Engineers, but was almost never worth taking, even at 25 points. Impact hits from charging enemies. When is the Master Engineer ever going to charge something? Very niche situation. Not their role. Their role is to stick with the war machines. So rarely worth taking the Mechanical Steed outside fun. But there was a miniature for it, and you can see it there on the right hand side for a Mechanical Steed with a Master Engineer on there. And that brings us to the end of the Lords section for the Empires, with the mounts included. I hope that was interesting for you, or gave you a quick refresher of what the Empire Lords section looked like and how they played. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, give it a thumbs down. If you do give it a thumbs down, though, please let me know in the comments why. The only way I can improve the content is if you let me know how you want the content improved and what you didn't like. As always, if you want to see more content though, please hit the subscribe button. It is totally free for you to do, and it means a massive amount for me. So thank you for that in advance. You've been watching The Ghost Owl. Tune back in for the Empire Heroes.